Yeah, I think, that's something that's been I don't want to say it's a huge issue, but I know it's very prominent, especially when we're talking about players signing in Europe. They're looking at that resume. I get tons of guys who, I have Polish heritage. I want to go play in Poland, but the clubs aren't looking at me. And I'm like, well, yeah, they're looking for ECHL. They don't care what you do there, what you played there, how it was. They just want that on like your league prospects page or what a hockey DB, whatever you want to use. And there becomes a lot of problem with that. I think even when we're just looking at those stats, I can speak to Poland. Unfortunately, in Poland, you've had some clubs that are very poor financially. For anyone who wants to see like the craziest league you can find, sometimes it's the fact that you have clubs in Poland where they're signing guys who have NHL experience, who have top European experience. They are professional clubs. They're playing in the same league as like a team that's like, okay, we're trying out some guys who played NCAA D3. We got some guys who play amateur Slovak, like just trying to see who can fit and, I guess to say almost have warm bodies for the team,
Yep.
basically, is where they're at. So you get these ridiculous scores. I mean, I remember I've covered some games that hit 20 to nothing in a hockey game at the top
Oh,
level of a country. Um, and that's where it becomes where you have a problem with data sometimes where if you don't look into this deeper, I don't want to yeah, we're going to avoid player names because I don't want to disparage a player who's a free agent right now. But we have a player who's a top scorer in Poland. He was one of the best this year. He has tons of goals, tons of assists. It looks great. He dominated. One big problem. Most of those points came against the worst team in the league. You remove those points, and suddenly he's a pretty average scorer in the league, especially maybe even below average for what they expect out of a top line import. And that's where, these data things can just sometimes harm. And especially, I think, when we look at European prospects, not every country is the same as extreme as Poland, but it's what do players actually do in these games against these lower teams? Who are their points coming against? What's the value of a player maybe who's playing in Sweden who has 8 points in 42 games versus a player who has 12 and 20? But that player who has 12 and 20 is playing a team that's facing relegation. They're facing a lot of bankruptcy problems. I mean, these financial problems are prevalent among European teams. It's which one has more value there, the one who actually was getting a consistent role, playing a lot in Sweden, developing and finding ways to score in that low role, or the one who just got some ice time bump because, hey, we're playing this garbage team, just let the young guys play.
yeah.
Because that's what we see in Poland is some teams let the young guys play those garbage games. Other teams are like, hey, we're running up the score today. Everyone get your points in.
100%.